What if you found a new way of watching your favourite show? The plot and the characters are the same, but the meaning is completely different. And what if the way you thought about movies was never the same again? Are you willing to take that chance? Welcome to Abstract Nonsense, the Fan Theories and Alternate Readings podcast. My name is Joe Lewis. I'm joined by my co-host, Anthony Bull.
Hey Joe, how's it going?
I'm going great, Anthony. We're talking about one of my favourites today. It's Stargate SG1.
Yeah, yes, I enjoyed the show as a kid. I enjoyed the movie, enjoyed the show, it was great.
A young lad.
As a young lad, whatever. You were out there listening, you probably enjoyed it too, I imagine.
I imagine you would if you're listening to this. Stargate SG1 is, of course, a 90s sci-fi adventure series based on the premise that the theory that aliens built the pyramid, a popular theory, is actually true, and that they also left behind an intergalactic wormhole system that allows travel between worlds. The show follows specifically a team of 4 explorers that travel the galaxy and uncover mysteries and solve threats to humanity, and it features 4 characters. So you have the military officer Jack O'Neill, the archaeologist Daniel Jackson that uses knowledge of ancient Egypt and ancient cultures to uncover the languages and the communication systems that the aliens still use. Sam Carter, who is a military scientist, and Teal'c, who is a friendly alien.
Yeah.
Basically. And so the 4 travel through the galaxy solving threats.
Going on adventures.
The following podcast will contain spoilers for those who... vague spoilers, I guess. Nothing too specific here. It's hard to spoil a big TV show like Stargate SG1, especially when the arcs are so large.
Yeah.
But we are here to talk about alternate fan theories. For Stargate SG1, and we're going to start off the show just briefly talking about the theme song. Now, Stargate theme song is something that, hits you right in the childhood.
It does.
You remember hearing it as it was on?
For anyone in Australia, it was the post-JAG theme song.
Directly after JAG.
You heard the JAG theme song, and then you're like, oh shit, son, because JAG was okay, but really, you wanted SG1, you started running when you heard the da-da-da-da-da. That high orchestral notes, it really built up the show, and then it gets in this part where it starts going dun 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 dun. It gets you charged up for the adventure that's going to happen ahead.
It was dramatic. It was punk. It was, it incited something in you that got you excited for what was to come. The adventure, the majesty.
It's just there. It's on the way nearly.
It just made you excited to watch it, and it was a great theme song. How many televisions would you give it out of 5?
I'd probably give it actually 8 out of 10 televisions. It's a pretty darn good theme song. What about yourself?
I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to give it 6 out of 7.5 televisions.
Excellent. How do you cut a television in half? I'd like to know.
Oh, you jest. We all know we can cut televisions in half.
It's really easy. You just get a circular saw.
Yeah. So we are talking about fan theories for Stargate SG1. What have you got for us, Anthony?
All right, so the first theory actually was sent in by Peter via Facebook message. He says that SG1, throughout the entire series, it's analogous to modern-day atheist movements who seek to try to deconvert people worshipping Christianity, right? Or some benign religion. They see that as the Gould or the Jafar. They see that as Christians.
Yep.
They're oppressing people. They're keeping people dumb, because it's not a real religion in their minds. And they think they're doing good. They think they're doing okay. The thing is, we then get the Ori later, okay?
Okay, who are the Ori?
So the Ori are these very devout religious order who go through the galaxy, who actually have access to power from ascended beings.
Okay.
I think they're called... So their religion's called Origin. And they actually have powers, unlike the Gould who are faking their powers. They have some powers. There's a massive power vacuum left in space for religion because of the deconversions of people who are worshipping the Gould.
If I can just jump in here and contextualize this a little bit for those who might have been a while since they saw Stargate, but basically the way that power is used in the Stargate universe is often in the form of religion. They enslave lower races by pretending to be gods. Pretty much all of the races do this. So you have the Goa'uld, who were the Egyptian gods, and Babylonian gods and stuff like that. But then later you meet the Asgard, who are actually posing as the Norse gods. And you have a bunch of other races that do similar. You're saying that a race comes that actually do have powers, maybe not godlike powers, but maybe powers to some extent, where they're not just using their technology to influence more primitive races.
Yeah, and the thing is unlike the Goa'uld, who want you to bow down to them and want you to be a servant, they don't necessarily demand you worship them as a god. They kind of do. But what they really want is you just to be a servant.
Okay.
That's their purpose. The Ori demand absolute devotion to the Ori.
Okay, so what is your theory?
So it's not my theory, it's Peter's. The theory is that this idea that they're doing good for the world has actually opened up an opportunity, all right, for other more hostile, more aggressive religious ideals or other ideologies to come in and actually take the place of that religion that was once there. They thought they were doing well, the more progressing society and all this stuff, but maybe they were leaving it open for another religion, another ideology to come in, which didn't have any competition.
So what's the theory?
The theory is that, I'm saying it's analogous, they're saying it's analogous to the modern atheist movement. They thought they were doing well during, I guess, the 70s to 2000s, and then you maybe have the rise of ISIS and a rise of ultra-nationalist societies. Maybe the deconversions of people, or the Goa'uld, right, was actually keeping people in check. And maybe it wasn't such a virtuous thing in the end.
Interesting thing to think about. Another theory that has been sent in to us on the Facebook page is from Jessica, and this message was sent to us on Facebook, and it says, the entire series of Stargate SG1 leads up to the idea that the humans are actually becoming gods. Maybe not just in the idea of gods as it's used in Stargate, the show, where most religion, apart from maybe the ancients or the ascended ones or whatever, where they're bordering on actual deities, but the idea of a forced religion that we were just talking about. This is saying the idea that humans are actually on their path to receiving their own ascension and becoming actual deities. So it's on that path. What do you think?
I think that makes sense. I think that's actually in the show, I think. Or it's somewhere in the show. I can definitely see that because they talk about the Asgard, as examples, talk about the Tauri, which are humans, as being a young race. And not just young as in physically young, but also young in the technology and of the mind. And it's even made an example when Daniel Jackson ascends, that it's odd or it's different. He's very special because he's able to do it because he's one of the first Tauris to probably do it, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
So I think you might be right that maybe evolution to the ascended plane is might be the natural path of humanity in the Stargate universe. Maybe there's people like the Goa'uld who maybe they would have got there sooner had they not clung to the technology of old, being the ancients, and just stagnated in their worship and their subjugation of their people. And if they actually tried to advance not just everyone themselves, but also the whole world, universe, to try to explore, do good, they might have actually continued on their path and become ascended beings. Because we know some of them do, like Anubis. But then Anubis, it gets revealed that he's evil. He's very bad, and he gets de-ascended. So we know some Goa'uld can, but more Goa'uld should have probably been able to. But they're stuck with their technology and subjugation, so they never progress.
Thank you, Jessica. We've got another one sent in to us here, and this one's from somebody named Jeff. And Jeff just says, Goa'uld are good guys.
Yeah, I can see that.
Thank you, Jeff. What do you make of this? Are the Goa'uld the good guys? The Goa'uld?
Depends who you ask, eh?
Well, as always, morality is kind of relative to your perspective. If you were to say that the Goa'uld are the good guys, you're implying that the humans or the Tauri are the same people. It's just the Goa'uld name for the humans. They are the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because they are destroying what the Goa'uld have built. So I guess you could say that. What are the pros of the Goa'uld? The Goa'uld have built this empire. It's kind of like a colonization story, right? So you have a bunch of people that go out and they do a bunch of bad stuff. They enslave people, they take things from them, they do all sorts of things, but then at the same time, they're bringing things to those lands as well. So they're taking things, but they're also giving things. So let's say in America, they stole land, they killed a bunch of people, but they also brought medicine, and they brought technology, and they brought things, and, colonization is often seen as a very bad thing,
and for the
but
people
it does
who
have its benefits.
And for the people who were abducted but then are there now, their lives, they may be better, they may be worse, but their lives still exist, and they have some amount of stability, because it's still in the interest of the Goa'uld to keep the population stable, somewhat well-fed, somewhat just okay, because they're farm animals. They're harvested essentially as servants and also as Jafars or Goa'uld incubators.
Yeah, so there's two things that humans are used for. So they're used for the Jafar, where a Goa'uld is grown in the stomach and incubates it. And then in humans that aren't Jafar, can Jafar become hosts? I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's been a long time since.
What do you mean?
A Goa'uld in a Jafar is inactive. It's being held like in a womb. It's just growing. It's a baby in its form, and it lives in the stomach. When it becomes of age, it enters the back of the spine and rolls around the spinal cord and attaches to the brain. And that's how it controls its host. It's a parasitic being. And it has full control of the host. I think the Jafar dies once the thing is removed. But either way...
Because it injects a poison when you try to remove it.
Humans are benefiting from these two forms. So if you're in a Goa'uld, yes, you don't have any control of your body. And this is, something that people will argue for. There's a lot of benefits to things like nanny state in government, where you're completely looked after, but you lose a lot of your liberty and your freedoms. That's, being a host. The other one is being a Jafar. You have an increased lifespan. You have strength, I believe. There's a bunch of benefits.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things that you get from having that Goa'uld in your stomach. As soon as that's removed, basically your immune system is as well, though. So it's kind of your security. And again, loss of liberty, though not as severe, but also the benefits are a little bit different to being a host.
Yeah. You could take it as well. This is a bit of an analogy on slavery in general, like the American slavery.
Yeah.
The idea that it's actually that what they're doing is bad because they're being enslaved and their circumstances are bad, but they may actually have had a better life than if they were not abducted. As bad, it's hard to talk about this, but the Jafar, if they were not abducted and not given these Jafar-like qualities, they might have not had as good of a life, but they still would have had a free life, so that might have been better.
Yeah, well, it depends on your perspective and, as always, what you rate as priorities and things like that. It's like I'm saying with the liberty thing. In today's day and age, if you value liberty, you're kind of on the losing side. A lot of people will prefer security over liberty. So they want your government to look after you, and they don't care if they hack your emails or do or whatever, all the insidious Snowden things. They just want to be safe.
Yeah.
And, this is something we talked about in the Zootopia podcast, where the government will often create a threat to ensure control, or manipulate a threat more accurately. Say, this is a threat over here, the carnivores, and we need to protect you from that, and then they become the enemy themselves, because that's not in your best interest to be controlled like that. Yeah. So, coming back to what we're talking about, Goa'uld could be seen as the good guys if you value security over freedom or liberty. But the other side of that is the SG1, the humans, the empire that they are building throughout the series. Is that actually worse? Sure, they're not enslaving people, but the people under their control, do they have any more freedom or any more significant freedom than the peoples under the control of the Goa'uld?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Probably not. They actually lose connection to the system. Like, the system lords are there. They're there to reign dominion, but they're also there to keep the planets in check. Without this centralized authority, without this person actively keeping the farms alive, they're just going to stagnate. Why would they keep going?
Yeah, a lot of... I think that's one of the things that happen in the show. A lot of systems fall after the system lord is removed.
Yeah, I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's we should say that they're good. What we should talk about is maybe they are just a victim of the system that they're currently in. The Goa'uld who started it, they needed to live, so they have to do this. And in order for Goa'ulds to reproduce, they still have to use hosts. And they also still view, therefore, the hosts or the incubators as cattle, the same way that you might view... a cow as meat, right? These Goa'uld might just view Tauri as, they're just cows. Why would I treat them any better than you treat a cow? So they may not be that evil. Some of them are evil because they're aware that they can have change and they just pursue bad things. But there are decent ones or okay ones, like some of the system lords are. They're okay. They're not super evil, but they're just okay. And they'll do things, they'll work with the Tauri sometimes when it's in the advantage of the Gould.
Yeah. It's a good one to think about, Jeff. And, moralities are always interesting when you talk about these TV shows. And even though your bad punctuality and grammatical sentence was off, Gould, I think, could be considered good guys.
So Jeff's theory is kind of interesting when you consider the Tauri might be the unintentional bad guys as well. Take, for example, the war in Iraq.
Okay.
This happened, I think, after the show, or at least after the long production of the show. So,
sure.
Because it was still running in 2007.
Yeah.
The war in Iraq was seen as an okay thing. We're going to fight terrorists. We're going to stop the evil oppressors, the dictators. And what it led to was an absolute destabilization of the Middle East.
Yeah.
So I think, maybe the Gould are just a stopgap. And you even see that with Ra in the first movie. Ra is keeping all the system lords in check. And when he gets defeated by Daniel Jackson, right, it causes a massive amount of chaos and warring between all of the system lords. So unintentionally, they might think they're doing good. They're actually doing bad.
Yeah. It happens a lot. It's really interesting and it's kind of prophetic, like you're saying, where you have this human race. The humans are basically just Americans in the show.
They are exactly America. There's no other way. All humans are Americans in this show.
Because you have that thing with the Russians where they kind of let the Russians experiment a little bit using their gates and they have their own program. But it's a little bit like the space race. The Russians kind of in it, but it's really the Americans that are doing everything.
It's more like a rivalry between two cities than it is between two nations.
And there's tensions towards the end of the show about why aren't the nations cooperating more and doing joint efforts? Why is everything just SG1, rock up to a place, kill a bunch of Gould, move on?
Talks about... whether all the nations, they want to stop the Stargate program because it's bad and it's no good. And then the Asgard come in and say, Thor from the Asgard comes in and says, you need to keep doing it. I'm from the Asgard. There's all these evil things. And they agree to it. At the end of the show, the Asgard kill themselves. They have a mass suicide. So, this leads into my next theory, which I'll get to.
But you are right. Like moving into a region and removing that whatever power is, even if the power is bad, as we saw in Iraq, if you move in, take out that power and don't replace it with anything, or replace it with something that's so foreign to them, like in an area like the Middle East, democracy is really foreign.
They probably did try to implement democracy on those Gould planets, and they were just like, I don't understand
it didn't
this.
Hold because it was a completely foreign
So
concept.
No wonder they went for the Ori when they came in, because they were like, oh, here's another religion. It's exactly the same thing we've had for the last thousands of years. Why would we choose anything different?
So coming around, like if you're just creating a power vacuum, you're going to create chaos and anarchy, not the anarchy that people say is good, just the bad anarchy where people are just killing each other, until a new power is created, which is often worse than what was before, like in Egypt with the revolutionary
Muslim Brotherhood and all that.
Yeah, so they were sick of their government. They're like, oh, listen, we can create a better one. They uprise and it ends up being a lot worse for everyone.
It did, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good job.
Good on you, Jeff. We expanded that. I liked it, yeah.
Good on you, Anthony.
Yeah.
All right, what have we got next?
Well, I think I'll talk about pacifism.
Okay.
Now, the major races, the ancient races in Stargate, there's 4 major ancient races.
Sure.
All right, there's the Asgard, there's the Nox, there's, I forget the fourth name. I think they're called Furlings. Yeah, the Furlings and the Ancients.
Yeah.
Right. The Furlings and the Nox are considered to be pacifists. They're described as pacifists through the show. So you've only got Ancients and you've got Asgards. Now you have this council, this galactic council. They sort of meet together to work on different...
Galactic UN, basically,
Galactic
right?
UN. Once the Ancients ascend, the whole council dissolves, which I believe also leads to that power vacuum, because you're not checking on people like the Gould. Because if you're a pacifist, you're going to be a non-interventionist as well by nature. Yeah. So when the Gould start taking over planets and start enslaving people, are you going to do anything as a Nox? No. Are you going to do anything as a Furling? No. The only 2 people who can keep that in check are the Asgard and the Ancients. When the Ancients ascend, the Asgard are overwhelmed because they also still have a historical nemesis in the Replicators. They can't keep the Gould in check. This leads into my next theory, which is that the Asgard are using the Tauri as a stopgap to prevent the Gould from expanding and taking over their territory whilst they fight the Replicators. They need to have that proxy war between the Tauri and the Gould to prevent the Gould from actually attacking the Asgard. Because the Asgard could wipe out the Gould, but they can't wipe out the Goa'uld and fight the replicators at the same time.
I don't know how much of a fan theory that is, because that's basically exactly what's happening. That's exactly the plot of the show. That is what happens.
Well, I don't know. Well, that's my fan theory. If that's exactly what happens, then well done. I've just done a good nice reading of the show.
If your fan theory is
the show,
exactly what happens, it's not a fan theory. It's just you watch the show, congratulations.
But are they really manipulating everything behind the scenes?
Well, they're manipulating the humans. Yeah. I think that's fairly clear, right?
I don't think it is. I think the show still projects its most levels that it is this cooperation between those two races against an evil threat. But it's not the idea that the Asgard haven't offset or haven't forced the Goa'uld and the Tauri to fight each other. They still stick up for the Tauri for some reason. When the Goa'uld wants to invade Earth, they try to create this protective clout over Earth. And not because they care about the human beings, but because they care about the Tauri military installations there, which they can be used to fight the Goa'uld on other planets.
I understand what you're saying, and I always thought that was the obvious reading, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I never read that theory. I always thought it was like they interpreted it as the good. We're always doing virtuous. Because I felt this was prior to when these type of proxy wars were really in vogue or well understood by the general public.
Yeah, I think these things have always happened, and I'm not as well versed on ancient politics and war as I should be, but I believe these things have always been happening. A stronger city or nation will use a weaker one to fight its wars for them when they're occupied with a bigger threat. Isn't that a lot of what was happening in World War II? A lot of the international politics that was happening.
World War II. They didn't want to check on Nazi Germany, and until they invaded Poland, they didn't really care so much because it was okay, it was fine. But that was probably, again, that was a repercussion of World War I, where the second that Germany invaded Belgium, it was on, which it shouldn't have been because, again, England thought, I don't care about Belgium all that much. Yeah. But Poland is a big issue because it's like, oh shit, now that's actually... There's expansionism there. We need to stop it.
Yeah. I've got one here that I came up with that you might like. Okay. I'm predicting that SG1 actually exists within the universe of Sliders. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which, whenever you get into these multidimensional shows, you can just say stuff like that. But here's where I have evidence. Okay. So the Cro-Mag in Sliders are this alternate kind of human-y race. They evolved from lizards, right? My memory's a little bit foggy. Please forgive me, dear listener. But they've evolved differently, and they're kind of the main antagonists, at least towards the mid to late end of Sliders. They get their own sliding technology, and they start taking over different dimensions, and increasing their reach over the world. My theory is that in Stargate SG1, there's this a species called the Una. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, they're the Goa'uld's first hosts. And the Goa'uld use them to get around, and they kind of look a bit similar to the Cro-Mag. So my theory is, what if the Una are just the Cro-Mag that were in a different dimension? Obviously, this is a little bit flawed because I don't think the Una were born on Earth. Yeah. But it's interesting to think about.
I think it could be true at some levels. I do remember the Una, and some of their iconography looks a lot like Goa'uld.
Okay, so I was researching this a little bit before we came on the podcast, and a lot of the iconography is fairly similar. There's the epaulets on the Cro-Mag, and they look fairly similar to the head stamps of the Jafar, or the Goa'uld. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Like I'm buying this theory now. I think there could be something to that. I think we should expand it if we could. But I like that idea. Like maybe there's something there. Maybe it's just similar art design. Who knows?
Yeah, well, a lot of these things, not to take all the thunder out of it, but a lot of these things use similar production designers and similar type era, and they're drawing from the same influences, right? So the ancient mythology that Stargate draws a lot of stuff from, undoubtedly the Sliders people are looking at similar stuff. So take that one as you will.
Yeah, I've got a theory.
Okay.
It's a post-show theory, right? It's something to think about. After the end of the show, the Asgard give all of the humans their technological intelligence, their wisdom. Yeah. I believe in Atlantis, a similar thing. Atlantis.
Are you South African?
I'm South African, yes, Atlantis. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to Abstract Nonsense. My name is Joseph Lewis, and I'm joined by my brother, Anthony Bull.
TIA.
TIA.
So they get from Atlantis, they get another sort of like, I think they get some ancient secrets as well. So so at the end of all of Stargate, they have probably one of the biggest libraries of information in the galaxy. There's no Gould. There are no Asgard. Right? The replicators, I think, are defeated as well. There are none of the original ancients. The Ori are dead. The Tauri are also throughout the entire universe. So that means that the Tauri are the undisputed masters of the entire galaxy. And they are so strong. My theory or thing to think about is the American military has been, throughout this show, constantly trying to change SGC.
Yeah.
Always trying to get rid of people, always trying to get rid of General Hammond, I think is a good example, but they never do. Now that they've actually got rid of almost all of the major threats, there is no doubt in my mind that the president and the security or people who are advising him would replace all of SGC with military grunts so as to create sort of American-style colonies, or at least prop up some of those Tauri homeworlds in exchange for some taxes or some sort of income that would benefit America. And second, the Russians would probably try to hack or get some of the information so they could use it in their own Stargate. We know they have one. They would definitely need some of that info because America's not going to share that info with the human race.
I thought their Stargate blew up.
Well, did it?
I think so.
Oh,
I think they end up using the American one.
Okay, well, at some point, America's just going to... I can't see America just sharing information now they have all this knowledge with the entire world. There's no way. It's going to be classified and kept in the American or US's vaults because you could have all the nations try to gang up on them in war, but they have Asgard technology now. If they were scared of the Asgard, the other nations, they're going to be scared of America even more so now.
Yeah.
So America will conquer the world and conquer the universe.
Well, so what you're saying basically is an extension of the theory from before, and that the power vacuum will create an even worse threat, in this case, the humans. We've talked about this a bunch.
Maybe the America is good, or the SGC is only good. We know it's only good, because the current SGC command is all about exploration and scientific endeavor. But now that you have all this infinite knowledge, you don't need science. You don't need exploration, right? Because remember, the Stargates can only go to specific worlds. They can't explore somewhere else.
While you have other objectives, it's keeping them away from the exploit. So, when we talk about video games as the 4X, I can never remember them all. It's like exploit, expand. There's two others, I don't know. Yeah. But you just explore. Did I say explore? I
think so, yeah.
Anyway, once you're finished doing those, you're down to exploiting. So the Americans are going to start doing what the Americans do and start exploiting what they have. And
it kind of puts a downer on the whole end of the season.
Yeah.
Like, the good guys don't win. The good guys actually become the bad guys.
So they become what they defeated, which is they basically become
the Gould. Yeah. It's kind of fucked up.
But in a different way, in a kind of proto-capitalistic way, instead of obviously an ancient slavery.
Forced slavery, it's more in wealth inequality. Economic slavery, poverty, if you want to argue that.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory. We're going to jump in now to the segment we do every week. It's called All in His Head, and it explains how a show, movie, anything we watch could be rationally explained fairly quickly, because these get a bit bland, about how it could be all in a character's head, a dream, or a coma, something like that. Because these are things that people always think of. It's always in his head.
It's the most obvious one.
What have you got for this, Anthony? Have you got an interesting one?
So this one is Daniel Jackson is actually crazy.
Okay.
Right? People think he's crazy because he thinks he sees symbols that can go to parallel worlds. He also thinks he's crazy because he thinks that the pyramids were built by aliens.
Yeah.
They actually laughed at in the Stargate movie.
Yeah.
This time, he's actually crazy, and he's in a mental institution. Right? Whenever he's wheeled around or he walks through a room, he thinks he's going through a Stargate, okay? Going to another parallel universe. The orderlies are the SGC and SG1. So I picture Teal'c as being like this sort of like no-nonsense black orderly who goes, he'll see him, he'll walk into a room and he'll say, "Oh, look, there's Teal'c." And because Teal'c, he doesn't talk much. It's not because he's stoic. It's because the black guy is really pissed off with this Daniel Jackson guy constantly calling him Teal'c and thinking he's an alien. So he only responds very basically to commands.
So Teal'c's an orderly.
Yep.
Daniel Jackson's a crazy person.
Yep. Samantha Carter
Sam
and
Carter's
Jack
a
are
nurse.
Also, yep.
And Jack is also another crazy person.
Well, he could be a psychiatrist.
I think he's a crazy person.
You think he's a crazy person? I think it fits too, kind of.
Well,
they work together.
If you go back to the Stargate movie, which you referenced briefly, which is good for those who haven't seen it. If you've seen SG1, you should probably go and watch the Stargate movie. It's just Jack and Daniel, but he's also, he's there on that breaking point.
Okay, so how's this example? Daniel Jackson leaves for a little bit. He ascends. What if he actually gets let out of the mental institution for a little bit?
Yeah.
Right? He's actually considered to be criminally... He's sane enough to leave, but then he gets brought back in because that's not uncommon. That does happen. Yeah, he lapses back into his insanity.
Yep. Well, that's fair enough. So Stargate SG1 is all a figment of Daniel's imagination.
Yeah.
Which, I guess in some of it would be.
Yeah, some of it definitely would be.
If you're looking at it from an
There's parallel universe,
narrator
and all these things, unreliable.
There's crazy things that happen. Daniel's making up some of them for sure. That's all the theories we have for this week. But if you want to contact us or hear more, that we're available on most social medias. We are Abstract Nonsense. You can find us there, and you can help us out, and you can give us a rating and a review on iTunes. It helps us out a lot.
It does.
If you could do that, that would be awesome. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Anthony, before we go?
No, I don't think so. I think we've all Stargated out,
You gated out.
I'm gated out, yeah.
So gated. Is that what the kids are saying these days? Oh, I'm so gated, man.
Yeah, I'm so gated. I'm just so gated, I'm
over
the event horizon, yo.
I went to the club last night. I got so gated that I passed through the event horizon.
That could absolutely be youth slang. There you go, kids. Take that.
If you're out in the clubs, make sure you're using that lingo. Pass it on. Spread it amongst yourselves. Mm-hmm. My name is Joe Lewis. Thank you for listening to Abstract Nonsense.
I'm Anthony Bull. Stay abstract.
That's my line. I say stay abstract. Stay abstract.